Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to some more Higurashi. Last time, Tomoe beat up some delinquents, and we met with Oishi. We're in Otonomiya, we're investigating the murder, or the death of guy who Rena beat up a while ago, and they think it might be Rena, when it's probably not Rena. It's probably just the syndrome, but we'll see how the investigation goes. Would be interesting to see Rena, since it's been a while since we've seen any of the main cast, at least like the kids. Obviously, Bidou's in the picture. Takano? Finally Takano? It's her time? Surely. Oh, looking like Hinamizawa, yeah. And then it's kind of trippy because it looks different, but you gotta remember this is in autumn, and you only ever see Hinamizawa in summer, so yeah, it threw me off last time too, seeing Otonomiya in autumn. The surrounding area was full of natural atmosphere. The golden ears of rice fluttered in the wind along the sprawling sea of pastoral land. The lusciously verdant, freshly grown crops were in the field were some sort of fruit, vegetables. The answer was squash, by the way. The wind blowing through the open windows carried in a distinct aroma, different from the summer grass. A fresh, calming air that you could just melt into. Then just beyond the fields and old-fashioned houses, there were several newly built houses lined up at irregular intervals. Back in my day, it was a hellscape, says Oishi. No shot. He's capping. She lightly tilted her head to steal a quick glance at Oishi, who was driving. He seemed to have something on his mind as he stared straight at the road ahead. The frame of the car shook as it hit a bump in the gravel road. The suspension seemed pretty worn out. The impact propagated straight to her seat, causing her to jump up. The Oishi-mobile. Best air-conditioned car in the prefecture. What does that even mean? She gave a confident answer, but the car was shaking so much that she couldn't feel comfortable without a hand on the handle above the window. People use that? Tomoe focused her eyes on a distant point in an effort to... Do they even... Do they even put those in cars anymore? I remember those. I don't think my car has it. Yeah, starve off motion sickness and lamented not driving here in our own car. I never had car sickness. Kind of. Maybe, like, just if you're in it for, like, a long time. But I can relate. I did have seasickness once in Mexico during a deep sea ocean fishing trip. And I've never had seasickness before, though it was my first time on, like, an ocean on a small boat. Shit fucked me up for the rest of the day, dude. Literally. Oh. Tomoe glanced at her watch as she said that. While following Oishi out of the coffee shop, the sun was still high enough in the sky. She didn't need to check the time. Ooh. Right into Rena's house. She wanted to see the girl herself, but she was still a minor, so making a direct contact at this time would be premature. If she did, there was a chance she put Reina Ryuju on guard, which could impede future information gathering. Instead, she could listen to what her parents had to say and get to know the situation behind her family environment. AKA, it was kinda rough.
うん、そうですか。なら、車取ってきますので、私もご一緒しますよ。
あ、大丈夫ですよ。私の車、この近くの駐車場に止めていますから。
いやいや、遠慮は無用ですよ、ともえちゃん。女性を助手席に乗せるなんて、後にも先にもめったにないことですからね。
なんかいやらしいな。でも、本当にお気遣いは。
However, when Tomoe tried to decline again, the smile vanished from Owishi's face and he turned to look straight at Tomoe-chan. There's no hint of levity in his expression. When Tomoe noticed that, she realized he was no longer joking around.
大石さん
It's too
悪いことは言
dangerous.
いません。乗ってきた車で行くのはおやめなさい。Hinamizawa は排他的な村だと先ほどもお話ししましたが、
He over.
よそ者のあなたが予備知識もなく走り
Like,
回る
it's true they keep tabs, probably, at least at the Sonozaki's, but I mean, Oishi can be, like, a little paranoid from all he's been through against the village, but, like, generally, I don't think they care too much, right?
そういえば
At this point
分
in
かっても
time.
らえますかね。
There's still stigma and stuff, but it's not like she's on the ganked.
危険なんですかひなみ沢は。
It could be, since, lots of base of the head of a Yakuza groups there, so, but
いえいえ、
in
私が
general,
ちょっと過敏になっているだけかもしれません。
it's probably fine.
今は綿流しとは全く関係のない時期ですし、観光とかで足を踏み入れた人もちゃんと無事に帰ってきています。ただそれでも他県ナンバーの車で回るのは村の連中に余計な警戒心を持たせる可能性がある。特にあなたは刑事ですからね。
Wish had a valid point. Tomoe was certainly being a little careless. If she was simply going to visit Reina Ryudu, she could get on by on her own, but there is still a chance some shadow was lurking behind the scenes. In which case, it's probably best not to drive around in a car from another prefecture.
わかりました。それじゃあ、ご好意に甘えさせていただきます。
Well, lore complete. Then Tomoe was able to see various places within Hinamizawa while Wishu was at the wheel. Erie Clinic, the only hospital in the area. Please visit. Haven't seen Erie in a while, also. The households of the Kimiyoshi and Sonozaki families of the three families. The forestry service building currently being used as a Hinamizawa branch school. And then...
ここに例の竜宮玲奈は通っているのですか
What did she just say?
そうです。
Why did she say her name twice?
ここに例の竜宮玲奈は通っているのですか
Hear that? Reina, Ryudu, Reina. Maybe it's just a word that sounds like Reina.
ここに例の竜宮玲奈は通っているのですか
Yeah, that's the second Reina sounds a little different than the first Reina.
ここに例の竜宮玲奈は通っているのですか
It's just a word that sounds like Reina. That's kind of funny though.
あいにく今日は祝日ですから誰もいませんがね。
This is pre-Keiichi era. Just a reminder. From inside the car, she turned her head to look at the school building on the other end of the yard. The heavy construction equipment and woodworking tools casually placed beside it made it look more like a lodging facility than a school building. True. Why don't they just move that shit, man? Really? Nah. I'm actually surprised it's like in walking distance. Well, I don't know exactly what he means, but like under an hour? If it's more than like an hour, then it's probably not good walking distance for a kid to walk to.
もっとも当時の理由はむしろ別のことにあった。ここに文庫を作って子供たちを通わせることで学校を奪われる彼らのことを刺激的に作り上
Sure,
げたんだ
sure.
と
It's a double-edged sword,
偵
but
察計画の悪辣ぶりをアピールしたかったんだと思います。
sure, I get it. It's a double-edged sword. You see this situation, you might as well help it in the damn wars. But at the same time, it's like a pretty legit reason, since the others were so far away. It was cunning but effective. Even in Tokihogushi, when residents built their homes on the planned airport construction site, the people appealed to the mass media, pleading for them not to destroy the source of the children's precious education. The crops they went through painstakingly effort to grow would be devastated, and the children were crying. Tomoe had a bitter smile face, as she remembered watching the adults act out the farce on TV. A bitter smile face. It's not right, I think.
まあとにかくすごかったんですよ。なりふり構わずってのはああいうことを言うんでしょうな。暴力、押しかけ、根回し活動。自分たちの村が失われるか否かの瀬戸際ですから理解もできますが、合法非合法を問わず、あらゆる手を打って抗議活動をしていました。
True, though again, I don't think the school things would fit under those categories, to be honest.
そしてその団結に親代様信仰が一役買っていたというわけです。
なるほど。
However, when Tomoe listened to Owishi's explanation, something felt out of place. Just like in the coffee shop earlier, Owishi seemed to have a strong emotional stake in the dam construction project and the curse of Hinamizawa, almost an obsession. True? Tomoe senses it. Even when discussing the various incidents so far, he tried to think and analyze them with a certain degree of objectivity, and wasn't one to get emotional when it came to an investigation. But here...
ちなみに、竜宮玲奈の学校での様子はどんな感じですか？
それにつきましては、あまり学校側から情報を明らかにしてもらえないので、細かいことは何とも。ただ、おそらく至って普通だと思います。実際に問題を起こした話もありませんし、聞き込みを行った限りでは、下級生たちの印象も悪くないようですからね。
では、大石さんはどうして少し前彼女を調べようと考えたんですか？
例の行方不明になったという北条聡君ですが、
Excuse me?
いなくなる前に彼女と話をしていたそうでしてね。
Fair enough, I guess.
親代様についての。
It does look sussy.
親代様の？
The Satoshi mystery. Though, to be fair, even back in the day, I don't think I ever really thought Rena did anything to Satoshi, even though there's kind of a sussy connection there. Oishi told Tomoe what he heard from another female student. According to her, Reina Ryugu apparently consulted with Satoshi Hojo a few days before this year's Watanashi incident occurred. You think Shion told Oishi this? She might have. She went into that investigation arc a bit after Satoshi disappeared for a while.
その子も最初聞いたときは何のことやらさっぱりわからなかったそうですがね。
Yep.
サトシ君が体験していることは、すべて親代様のたたりの前触れなの。誰かが遠くからじっと浮かべ。
Oh my god, by the way, Rena? Hello, Rena, even though it's the weird inverted you. Haven't seen you in a couple arcs. It's kind of weird
誰かがずっと
seeing you again.
誰かがいつも自分のすぐ後ろから
Hearing her voice. Hawu?
やがて足音は
Probably no Hawus in this flashback.
余計に聞こえるようになるの。それらは初めのうちはお外でだけだけど、やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。そして お布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。ただただ黙ってじーっと自らの罪を認めるまで。サトシ君は夢見が悪いって最初言い出したの。それで私がどんな夢と聞いたら私の時をなぞるようだった。だから私彼に予告したの。
I mean, Rena tried at least in her own way. It's not like she was wronged about it.
その気配が
Just can't really do anything about it.
足音を聞かせるようになり、常にサトシ君を見下ろしているようになったなら、それはきっと私の時と同じだから相談してって。
それがお社様だと。
ねえ。それからその北条聡君ですが、家庭の不和の件で相当悩んでいたようでして、彼と妹は叔父夫婦と同居していたのですが、とにかく仲が悪くって、特に彼の妹が懐かなかったようで。
Acid Satoko. Suck it up, Buttercup. No, I'm joking.
その妹を叔父夫婦からかばっていたのですが、それが苦痛になるほど疲れ切っていたとのことです。
その件に対して。
Oh no. Bringing this back up, boys.
動けませんよ。よほど確固たる証拠でもない限り。
Not the revisiting of the child welfare arc, man. Shit triggered the fuck out of me. Both in Tokihogushi and in Minadoshi. Which is crazy if you think about it. How much I fucking love... Minadoshi is literally still my favorite arc. Even though the first half was a little... not bad though. Very satisfying conclusion to the first half at least. But oh, man.
まして村の裏切り者扱いを受けた北条家の問題。Hinamizawaの連中も見て見ぬふりをしていました。
Bad memories. 3 years ago, Satoshi Hojo's parents went against the village and refused to oppose the Hinamizawa Dam project. They even tried to convince other villagers to support it. As a result, they were branded as traitors who sold out their hometown. Even after Hojo and his wife died in the accident 2 years ago, nobody offered them any sympathy. Besides Rika? Excuse me? Not only that, but the villagers continued to treat their children coldly. 2 youngsters couldn't find any relief for their unfair treatment, so they simply continued to endure it.
ひどい話です。
その件については私たちの力が及ばずお恥ずかしい限りです。その後生き残った叔父はたたりを恐れた沖宮の愛人のところへ転がり込み、残された妹は友人と2人
Classic Tepe. Before his redemption arc. One of the best things to come out of the new anime. Wholesome Tepe.
少なくとも地獄のような生活からは脱出したとは言えるのかもしれませんね。
Tomoe looked out the window while enjoying the painful conversation. She couldn't simply see it as someone else's problem.
いくら重荷でも兄弟がいなくなって嬉しいわけがない。
Well, she did get happy eventually. Just time heals wounds. Tomoe thought back on her own past. When Madoka left and Tomoe was on her own, life certainly did get easier. Her living expenses were cut in half, so she didn't have to work impossibly hard at her part-time job, and the time she spent visiting her at the hospital for rehabilitation could be freely used for her own purposes. But if anyone asked if she was happy, the answer would be no. Her grandmother often went out of town on business trips, so even if she returned home, nobody would be there. She'd turn on the lights, leave the TV on even though she wasn't watching it, and make a meal for one, then eat it in silence. Her excessively serious personality proved disastrous as well. She couldn't call a friend to make small talk, and she couldn't play outside. She had an extremely boring college life of nothing but studying. Back then, she was constantly haunted by thoughts about her sister's current well-being. That loneliness prevented her from distracting herself with anything else.
その妹さんはどうなんだろう。私と同じ気持ちなんだろうか。
Well, I mean, how's she at year 4 post Satoshi? I think she was like probably pretty depressed for a while. Still, until the club started ramping up. The Nipa factor. Perhaps she wasn't feeling as lonely since she was living with a close friend. Still, whenever she woke up in the middle of the night or whenever she came home alone, she immediately remembered the pain of the absence of people whose presence you always took for granted.
それでですね。ともえちゃん
Please, are we gonna get some Satoto in this too?
ああ、すみません。
I didn't really make that connection between the similarities between Tomoe and Satoto, but yeah, they both lost their parents. This sibling disappeared for a bit.
それが竜宮玲奈とどういう関係が？
竜宮玲奈はどうやら両親が離婚することになった家庭問題の原因をお社様のたたりと考えていたようです。
Nope, that's your mother's fault.
実際事件を起こした直前にもその後にもその存在を認めていたような発言がありましたからね。後ろをひたひたペタペタとついてくる。何も。
それって一体何なんでしょうか？
That's Hanyu. Or Hanyu's shadow.
正直私にもわかりません。
And is Hanyu still in this fragment at this point?
妄想にしてはできすぎているし、しかも事件を起こした2人が類似のものを感じているとあっては安易に迷信と片付けられるものではないのかもしれませんね。
Tomoe stole a glance at Oishi, who was looking in the direction they were traveling. His expression implied he wasn't joking around, so she couldn't think of anything to say in response. When she first agreed to Oishi's request to help on an investigation, she didn't think it would be such a difficult story. A girl under some sort of stress exploded one day and violently lashed out. That was the impression she got. And in order to evade her guilty consciousness about the crime she committed, she subconsciously passed the responsibility onto something else she knew and convinced herself it was the truth. It was a common phenomenon for adolescent boys and girls, so she thought that Rei Naruto was going through something similar. But two people who seemed to have very little contact both described the same abnormal fear of this Oyashiro-sama before turning to violent behavior. So there may be more to what they're saying than simply deflecting responsibility. After that, Oishi passed through the center of the village and headed into a mountainous area. Hey, garbage dump! You might see a wild rhino here. And the weeds growing along the side of the road as they arrived made it seem like there were no signs of human activity.
ここは？
先ほどお話ししたHinamizawaダム戦争の跡地ですよ。つわものどもがとしゃれ込むには風情のない光景ですがね。
Tomoe and Oishi stepped out of the car and stood in front of the site. It was a mountain of garbage filled with scrap and bulky trash. It was completely different from the scenic village, a sad place almost like ruins. Apparently the villagers rarely visited here, so the soil was abundantly filled with weeds. The huge volume of garbage was probably dumped here illegally by people from nearby towns and villages. After the people left things here, they remained here untouched and permanently exposed to the elements.
嫌な風景ですね。
Excuse me, it's a pile of treasure?
誰も社会問題として取り上げないんですか？
Nope.
まあ余ってる土地は山ほどありますし、 お役所も手続きが面倒だからと腰が重いです。声を上げれば、じゃあお前が何とかしろって話にもなりかねませんからね。やぶへびはごめんってやつですよ。
Well, if you're a concerned citizen and you ask, and then they say, why don't you do something about it, then it's not really a good comeback. You're like, bitch, I'm a fucking concerned citizen. It's not my job.
もっとも、実際にはダム戦争当時の自演をやりすぎて、後処理に困って放置なんですから。
That's
馬鹿げた
made
話
sense,
なんですが。
actually. I would be embarrassed too.
遅延ですか？
Oishi nodded and said yeah in response to Tomoe's questions, then lit a cig. According to his story, the illegal dumping at this trash heap was connected to the damn opposition movement. Since crooked businessmen were illegally dumping bulky trash and industrial waste at the site outside the village, they established a checkpoint to defend it. In fact, the problem of illegal dumping had apparently been going on for a long time, so they had a strong argument for it. However, it was never about the industrial trash. Rather, the main objective was to stop the construction-related vehicles for inspection and delay the progress of the construction project.
実際、チクチクと書類を見せろとか、積み荷の数を確かめるとか言って、結構
Good
な
stall
タイムロスを
strats.
稼いでいましたからね。現場監督さんはいつも怒っていたものです。親方日の丸のお偉方は、反対運動の住民代表をなだめつつも、一方では工事の遅れは一日でも取り返せと現場の責任者に言明していましたからね。酒が入るたび浴槽をこぼしていましたよ。
大石さんはその現場監督さんと親しかった
Ooh,
ので
hit
す
the
か？
nail on the head.
うん。古くからの友人でした。年上の兄貴のような親父のような厳しいけれど人情味のあるいい人でしてね。いろいろと教わったものですよ。そう。例えるなら、ともいちゃんと山沖さん。あるいはちょっと僭越ですが、私とともいちゃんのような関係って言えばいいのかな。
Just then, Tomoe suddenly remembered. Oishi told her about the curse of Oyashiro-sama murder from 3 years ago when they were in the coffee shop earlier. That's right, the victim in the case was the on-site manager of the dam construction project, wasn't it?
大石さん、まさかその人って。
ええ、そうです。3年前の綿流しの夜、このゴミ山のどこかで殺されました。死体はバラバラにされて、腕が一本まだ発見されていません。
そんな。
What do you think Tatno did with the arm? Did she just like throw it out? Or did she keep it as a research subject? I guess they wouldn't really need the arm, huh? But she could have it like a souvenir, you know, as her run as Oyashiro-sama. Tomoe looked toward Oishi, utterly at a loss for words. He smoked a cigarette while staring at the mountain of garbage, gazing at the former dam construction site.
毎年毎年、今年こそは犯人を捕まえてやる。そして、もうこれ以上たたりの犠牲者は出さない。そう呆然に誓ってやってきましたがね。結局、今年も出しちまった。そして、働きの毒な男の子の未来まで奪っちまった。そう思うたびに、胸がね。
大石さん。
ともいちゃんは偉いな。こんな気持ちを11年間ずっと持ち続けていたなんて。私はまだ3年なのに犯人への怒りと憎しみで時々自分がどうにかなりそうになる。あなたはその3倍から4倍だ。
It is true. Though, In Tomoe's case, it's not like the quote-unquote culprit keeps killing shit or appears to be killing people. It's not active, I guess I should say. But yeah, similar stuff.
改めて尊敬しますよ。
私だって。
Tomoe closed her eyes and bit her lip. That was not the sound of biting her lip unless it's made of leather. If she had to challenge her parents' enemy completely on her own, how would she have managed? Surely by now she would have given in to despair, navigating the labyrinth of the unknown, or continued pursuing it until it broke her. Tomoe was able to keep working hard until today thanks to Oishi and Yamokai, and because she had Madoka. But Oishi was shouldering that burden on his own. Excuse me? He got the boy Kumadai, the police boys. There's no easy way to say which experience was more painfully difficult. Yeah, I don't know. They're both pretty rough. Anger, hatred, and revenge. Constantly thinking those thoughts and enduring the pain and suffering over and over again. I surely said it was everything to me. I've said many times that it's not possible to move on until I overcome this. But sometimes I get anxious. I wonder if the world lying beyond this is really the world I want to see. So I understand the pain bearing down on Oishi's shoulders and the weight of his sorrow.
大石さん、
はい。
こんなことを大石さんに言える立場じゃないって分かっているんですが、もし私で何かお役に立てることがあったら何でも言ってください。どんなことがあってもできる限りのお力添えはさせていただきます。
ともえちゃん。
Oishi stomped out a cigarette, then turned to Tomoe with a tranquil expression. His eyes had a brilliant, clear shine to them that exemplified his strong will. Oishi gazed off somewhere, searching through his memories, then quickly arrived at one. That was the detective from the Metropolitan Police Department who turned to him over 10 years ago with strong eyes as sharp as a knife. Let's go, Oishi-san. Even now, he couldn't forget the fearless smile on his face as he said that. At that time, he certainly felt a sense of justice that he'd nearly forgotten. Then the sight of him rushing through the storm of bullets without hesitation, gun in hand, in order to protect a comrade. Seeing the look in his eyes at the time moved him to tears for the first time in ages. Nice. She sure has grown stronger. Oishi remembered the first time he met Tomoe. Honestly, at the time, he was worried that she was a delicate girl who couldn't endure the tragedy of losing her family. But look at her now. Her petite, unassuming body was stretched tall and full of vitality, and she even had the compassion to be concerned about him. After 11 years, the image of that frail fledgling was completely gone. Living such a long life, when Oishi looked at her, he could feel the warmth from the bottom of his heart. Man, some good therapy going on for both sides here.
また大げさだな。もっとも柿内で大石さんたちにどんなお手伝いができるかまだよくわかりませんが。あれ？
Oh, Wild Renna?
どうしました？
Habu?
あれ、女の子ですよね。
Oishi looked in the direction Tomoe was pointing. The view was partially hidden behind the shadow of an oversized trash, but it was just as Tomoe said. Someone with a girlish figure was looking down on the slope of Garbage Mountain, and her hair swayed as she tried to pull something out.
こんなところで一体何をしているんでしょう。
あれはおそらく例の竜
Oh,
宮レイナじゃないでしょうか。
they know.
あれが
She's a garbage enjoyer. After Hinowishi's answer, Tomoe looked back at the girl once again. She could tell it was a girl from her skirt-like clothing, and the giant ribbon. But she was still too far away to get a good look at her
こんなに
appearance.
遠いのによくわかりましたね。顔を見えるんですか？
いいえ、でも間違いないです。
She's the only person who comes here.
こんなところ
Dumpster
に女の
dives.
子なんて他にはいませんからね。住民や子供たちから聞いた話だと、休みの日や放課後に時々ここでああやってゴミを掘り起こしたりしているそうです。
ゴミを何のために？
さあ、本人は宝探しをしているとして気に入ったものを見つけたときは自宅に持ち帰っているとのことです。
Classic.
趣味とも言えなくもないんですが、一部では気候とも言われていますね。
気候ですか。
It certainly was peculiar. It was unusual for girls of her age to pick up trash, much less stay at home. I can't believe they're making it serious. Of course, there still could be some usable tools and appliances in there, and it was impossible to find cute things like stuffed animals. However, a common thought among adolescents is an aversion to things they consider unclean. I thought I made a joke, but kinda didn't really think about it like this. They wouldn't want to touch something dirty, but that was enough. When I hear that, I immediately think of how Rena took the I out of her name because it was icky. But you know, she just likes, she just has an appreciation for things. She sees things in a cute way that the average person cannot comprehend. It's only a slight exaggeration to say they would declare something unclean and refuse to accept it as their own property because someone else had touched it or used it once. Nevertheless, Reina Ryuju enjoyed collecting garbage as a hobby, just as the villagers said. What was the meaning behind the act? Hawu? Does she have some unique sense of value or something else? No, Tomoe had a memory of something she read in a book long ago. When people feel a sense of alienation or loneliness, they have a tendency to fill their living spaces with other people, animals, or things in general. Oh man. Tell me Rena feels lonely? I just because Keiichi isn't here yet. One theory suggests that behavior originated from the flocking instincts of animals. They say humans are stressed by empty spaces and environments. They're always connected with something, so they can't feel mentally stable unless they feel something close to them. So even those living isolated from society will become agitated just after a few days if left alone in an empty space with nothing but food. Decorating a room with flowers and pictures or keeping an animal as a pet are typical examples of this phenomenon. And when that pressing mental condition is consistently nurtured, they say it can manifest as excessive greed. A wealthy person extravagantly spends their money like flowing water. This seemingly wasteful act is actually necessary to maintain their mental stability. Additionally, even those without wealth still spend on debt after debt if suddenly given a lump sum, sometimes even leading down the road to ruin. However, not wanting to waste things in their living environment or when surrounded by people they don't like the character of, they can choose to recklessly adopt animals, decorate with excessive quantities of flowers, or in some extreme cases bring home things abandoned by other people. Is it that deep though? It's actually like a pretty good analysis, but I don't know if it's actually that deep. I mean, what if Reina Ryuji's habit of taking trash home with her was a sign of mental instability? When you put it like that, like maybe. But they're also cute. Colonel Randy. And what if there was some external factor that could have driven her into those circumstances?
大石さん、確か竜宮レイナの両親は 離婚しているって話でしたよね。
ええ、そうです。その直後あたりに、ともいちゃんが調べてくれた学校内の傷害事件を引き起こしました。そして精神科医のカウンセリングを受け、心身に深刻なストレスを抱えているという診断を受けて、心の安定を図るために
Man, they were right.
移り住むことになった。
That was a good call to send her back to Hinamizawa, to be honest.
前の入院先の看護師がそう教えてくれました。
それなら彼女、この村に来てからはその類の治療をどこで受けているんでしょう。
治療ですか？
ええ、少なくともそれが問題で転校したのだとしたら、簡単に通院をやめることはできないはずです。
Time to go to the eatery clinic to find out. It was an offhand question, but once Tomoe put it into words, she started feeling even more suspicious. Even if the prosecution dropped the case against the girl who caused the incident, she would still be obligated to stay in long-term counseling for her mental instability. Additionally, when relocation makes it impossible to continue using the same medical institution, it is common practice for similar institutions in the new area to inherit the medical records and treatment methods of the original institution. Probably true.
ひなみざわへの移転後、大石さんが聞き込みを行った茨城の病院には通っていないというお話でしたよね。
ええ、その通りです。ですからもし治療を受けるのだとしたら、
Goldura?
設備や個人情報の保護を考えると、ゴグラにある大きな大学病院ぐらいしかないと思いますが。
だとしたら、彼女が今どんな状態にあるのか調べることはできないでしょうか。
ともえちゃん、それはどういう意味です？
竜宮玲奈は病気が完治していない。
Whoa, not even what if, just a statement.
いえ、ある意味で悪化している。それがあの異常行動や大石さんの言っていたお社様の語りに関与している可能性があるのではと。
Tomoe gazed at Reina Ryudu as she tried to dig something out of the mountain of trash, then turned back toward Oishi.
北条聡がお社様のたたり、つまり今年の殺人事件に関与していた可能性が高いと、先ほど大石さんのお話にもありました。そして彼女と同じ症状を持つ病気を北条聡も患っていた可能性
I
が考えられ
mean,
る。
true. Man, Tomoe's killing it. She's been in Hinamizawa for like a day. She already figured out kind of the answer.
なぜなら事件前には2人ともお社様に対しての衣服
We're coming very close to the answer.
ということは、彼女の精神状態と関与の人間を把握することで、北条聡が殺害行為に踏み切る経緯を理解する手がかりになるという考え方はどうでしょう。
ではともいちゃんは
No.
レイナも今回の
Wow.
殺人事件に関与して
I guess she technically could.
ちなみに被害者の北条玉江は綿流しの祭りの最中に殺されましたが、
Oh, there you go.
竜宮レイナはその事件当時、祭りの会場で複数の人間に目撃されています。アリバイは完璧ですよ。
いえ、その事件とはおそらく竜宮玲奈は無関係でしょう。ただ彼女が茨城で起こした事件も同様に、大石さんの言う通り誰かの意思で凶行が引き起こされているのだとしたら、2人の背後には共通する何かがあってもおかしくはない。それが何かが分かれば、ひなみざわ連続開始事件の黒幕の姿が見えてくるのではないでしょうか。
説得力はないこともないですが、随分大胆というか強引な推理ですね。
He's on the hot track, though. Oishi's thoughts stirred around Tomoe's suggestion about mental illness and using faith in Oyashiro-sama to control the village. It seemed like a completely unrelated story, but if Satoshi Hojo suffered from some mental illness that led to the crime, then there was a chance the mastermind behind the incident was utilizing that mental illness. Man just gathered a bunch of mentally ill people in one village and is manipulating them to commit their crimes. Obviously, that's not the argument, but...
事件を起こす際に お社様が共通のキーワードになっていることがどうしても気になるんです。その背後を洗ってみることで今まで見えなかった何かが見えてくるような、そんな気がします。
なるほど。現状では竜宮レイナについての情報が少なすぎるので簡単には判断しかねます。ただ正直今は八方塞がりの状況です。ともいちゃんのその味方にもちょっと乗ってみましょうかね。
After saying that, Oishi tossed the cigarette to the ground and stomped it out. Then he glanced at his watch.
それじゃそろそろ引き上げましょうか。余計なところに連れ出してすみません
No,
でした。
no talking to Rena?
いえ、
I guess they said earlier they didn't want to talk to her immediately without
この
supervision.
後は当初の予定通り竜宮レイナの父親に会ってみようかと思いますが、よろしいでしょうか。
ねえ、もちろんご案内させていただきますよ。
Then Oishi walked toward the parked car while twirling the key around his fingertip. Tomoe tried to follow behind him, but she stumbled a bit on the stone and lost her footing, and let me guess, Rena staring right at them.
おっと。え？
Oh, that moment. Tomoe suddenly looked back toward the mountain of garbage and gasped. Off in the edge of her line of sight, there's a girl far enough away to look the size of her little finger, standing there quietly, staring at Tomoe without moving a muscle. She couldn't quite make out the girl's expression. However, she could clearly feel the cold hostility dwelling in her eyes.
お前は
What that?
誰だ？
She shook her head to dismiss the voice in her imagination. Mind powers. There's no way she could hear a voice from this distance. It was difficult enough to discern her appearance. Tomoe turned and began walking toward the car while those thoughts neighed at her. Nevertheless, she felt it. It felt like a sharp gaze was burning through her back, and it gave her a chill. We're out of here. Alright, let's wrap it up here, boys, and we'll continue the meeting with Reina's dad next time. But yeah, interesting. We're back in Hinamizawa. Possible to see some familiar faces. We're definitely seeing Rena this arc. Maybe Satoko, because they were talking about it. Who knows? But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace!